Hi scrappy friends, welcome to my channel. I am working on a Clique Kits video for you today, and I will make sure I have a whole bunch of links for all of the add-ons and everything that I'm using. I am doing a anything goes challenge for the month of July. Clique Kits is doing a challenge where you can use anything and use stuff that were add-ons from the store. So that is all you need to do to enter your layout or project into the Clique Kits July Challenge. And make sure you tag us. And like I said, I'll have a whole bunch of info in the box below so that you can follow and play along. So you just seen me cover this with gesso. I am using clear gesso so that you can't see, or you can see the background. I thought about not using gesso, but I really don't want my paper to warp too much because I'm going to be doing a lot of watercolor. So I have a whole bunch of circles, and some of them were stamped and some of them were just drawn pretty lightly, but I'm not being superly careful about how light the circles are because I'm gonna most likely either stamp on the inside of them or I'm going to add some pen. So I'm gonna go around each of these circles with either blue, pink, or purple, and you'll see I'm trying to keep a lot of the blues and purples over on the side that I'm working on right now, and then I'll move to the other side and do more purples and pinks. So, and I am using some Prima watercolors and in the tropical set, and I'm also going to use a little bit of that other pan that I have that are just basic watercolors that you can get like at Michael's or any craft type of store. And I'm drawing darker around the circle, and then I'm going to add water to it and just kind of make it bleed out a little bit and have the colors kind of blend together. I really want it to just look pretty mixed media-ish of a look. And at this point, I'm adding a little bit of gelatos. I'm using that really, really pale pink that you see. I am going to add some regular pink too and darker colors. But I didn't want to add too much of it because I'm going to go back and add some of the gelatos and mix them in with the watercolors. I really like the way that this looks. And instead of activating the gelatos later on with water, for the most part, I just leave them. I just blend them in quite a bit. And this is going to help create a little bit more of a darker look on the outside, and I can blend it in really well as I'm mixing the colors. It's just something that I did in my art journal, traveler's notebook on my own that I played around with and I really liked. I'm going to be linking a video in the information box below because originally I came up seeing this idea done on a watercolor type of video, and it was really, really cool how she did it. I'm doing it a little bit different, and I had some of my circles overlap, but basically I'm doing something really similar. So I want to share that so that you can see. And this is one tip that I will recommend just in general, is that I like to go and look at different videos of watercolor, people who do watercolors and do other things like that. And it helps just kind of spark some ideas for some things to do. And generally, as long as you are linking or giving credit to where you first seen it, usually artists don't mind if you kind of take their ideas. I mean, especially if you post on YouTube, that's a big thing that you know is going to happen, that people are going to look and copy you. And even though I didn't completely copy her, I am doing some different things, but the original idea came from her. So it was really fun to watch her process. So yeah. And sometimes it's fun, I find, with mixed media to watch people who aren't scrapbookers, because they kind of make you think a little bit outside of the box. So that is my little tip as far as, making sure that you kind of get inspiration not just from scrapbookers, because sometimes we get stuck in our ways. But this was really, really fun. And so now I'm adding the gelatos, and I'm using some of them are metallic and some of them are matte. And I know the one pink one that I'm using actually came in a set that I got in the Clique Kits stores. I'm pretty sure they don't have anymore, but because that was a couple years ago. But that's one really fun thing about when the kits have the add-ons with some extra media and stuff, because you can keep using it and keep getting different ideas and different things into your layouts. Sorry for that barking. My dog decided she needed to go outside that very minute. So I use a paper towel to keep my hand clean. And like I said, I'm just putting some of this on, and then I'm blending it into the cardstock. And with the gesso, it really helps. And so this is why I ended up using the gesso, because I knew I was going to use some of the gelatos. And if you have cardstock and you don't add gesso, it tends to not move around as nicely. Now, maybe if I had watercolor paper instead of using cardstock, it would have made it a lot easier, and then I wouldn't have had to add the gesso. But I figured it would help everything just kind of move along. The only problem with it is that it pools a little bit more, I feel like, when you use the gesso. So if you don't, then you get more of the watercolor really soaks into the paper, and it really, I don't know, it just adds a different feel. But yeah, so the gesso is going to help it move around now. So now I'm taking some shimmers, and this is one of the newer ones. I know in the store, I think that there's still a little bit of shimmers. It's the same brand, it's not the same color, but I'll make sure I link to that, because that was in the store from last month. And it really just helped that pink just kind of stand out a little bit more. So I really liked adding it just in a few different places, and just a little teeny tiny bit goes a long way. So now I'm filling in some of the bigger circles with white acrylic paint. And I want to do this because I want to make sure that it really helps these middle ones pop a little bit more. Even though it's not quite the same color, I thought that it would kind of work a little bit. And I'm just going to take a little bit of this acrylic paint and just kind of go over in a couple of areas. And because it's just a very, very little bit, you can see right through the paint. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about this part of it, but so I decided to pull out some of this purple acrylic, Dina Wakley acrylic paint, and it's blackberry, and use a little bit of that in some of the purple and pink areas. And I added a little bit of water so it flowed really, really well. You could also use like a media, or like the stuff that you can use to thin out the paint. That would have worked really well too. But I didn't like that it had a little bit of a different color purple than some of the other purples that I used. So I only used a very, very teeny tiny amount. And I'm going to end up cutting off the edges anyway. So you're not going to see a lot of that one striped or like line area where I have it. So now I'm taking some of the stamps that I got a couple of months ago when we had the Pink Fresh Studio collection. There was these stamps from the collection as an add-on, and so I pulled these out because it has these lines for the circles, and it also has some words and stuff. So I was thinking maybe I could use some of them. I thought about using, there's a phrase called dream on, and I thought about using that somewhere on there, but in the end, I don't use it because it's just a little too big, but I do pull out the small one and use it in one main area, and then I just kind of mirror it around so it gets really light in some of the areas and you can barely see it. So, and then I'm also going to add this other circle that has the bird, but I'm going to end up covering up the bird because and at this point, I already knew I wanted to use the Maggie Holmes Chasing Dreams fringe butterflies because we had those as an add-on a while ago as well. And I only used one, so I wanted to use one. And I thought that this would be the perfect layout to use it on because of just what I'm going to be talking about. And I just thought it would be really fun with all the media. So now I'm taking this black pen, and it's just a Pilot Precise pen. So it's a ballpoint pen, and I know that when I mix a little bit of water in with it, it will kind of look a little bit more muted, but it also will have that impact. So I'm going to go around these circles, pretty much almost all of them, except for the smaller ones. I don't go around all the smaller ones, but all these bigger ones I do because I really want these circles to pop. I want them to like really show up. And I found that by adding the black, and then if you use a really small watercolor brush, you can just like touch it a little bit and get that black to move around a little bit more, and it really just kind of creates this really nice circle, and it ends up just I just like the way that it looks. It really makes the watercolors pop on the layout. And then I also add a few doodling like stitches and some dots around some of them. So just some really small ones. Just kind of adding something a little bit more to it, but I'm trying not to go super crazy. Of course, there's my head in the way, which happens to match part of the layout, doesn't it? And that is actually going to be what my layout's about my fun color of a hair. So, yeah. So at this point, I was thinking about where I wanted to put the title. Oh, I forgot. So I backed up this, the white cardstock. Like I said, I was going to cut it down. So I cut it down just a little bit so I could stick it on the one paper from Bella Boulevard that I used to cut out something for the Geek Lab. But I still had the whole rest of it, and so it worked really nicely to use just the border of it. And I think it really helps it pop. So I'm using these alphas from Pink Fresh Studio that were in one of the past kits. And at first I was thinking of changing it up, and then I got sitting there for a minute thinking about what I was going to do next, and I realized, no, I know the perfect title. And so I changed it to Changes in the Hair. It's just a little play on words of changes in the air, but sometimes I have to be a little corny. I just can't help myself. But I really like the way that it worked. And I just added it around the circle. I thought that would look really fun. It would be a way to just really help the media also pop a little bit more. And I really love these copper thickers. I love copper. And I was going to use some of that gold Faber-Castell stuff, but I didn't end up using it, the gold blocks. That's okay. So I'm going to be using part of the main kit and part of the Traveler's Notebook kit. So I'll make sure I have links below so that you can go check out both of them if you want to see what's in them. The main kit has a lot of Ellie Studio, and the Traveler's Notebook kit has mostly Life Grand from Ashley Horton and Pretty Little Studios. So, but in the main kit, this acetate came in, and so I just cut it in the same size as that circle in the middle because I thought I really liked all the circles, and I like that it's kind of watercolory, so I thought that it would work really fun in the circle. And so I used red line tape around the outside. I thought about just doing it on the inside where my photo will be, but I decided against that because I don't want it coming up at all. So I just put, around the outside, I just put some lines, and that'll help it stick. And the red line tape, pretty much once it sits there, you barely even notice it. So that's what I like to use when I'm attaching acetate, or either that, or I will use staples too, but staples weren't going to work in this way. I mean, I could have, but I just didn't want to. So I'm looking at the Traveler's Notebook paper, and like I said, it's Ain't Life Grand, and there's quite a bit of blacks. There's a lot of color, but there's a few black and like neutrals. And so I decided to cut this photo down just a smidge. It was a 4x6, but I decided that I just want mostly my head. So I cut off all that extra noise, if you will, from the photo because it wasn't really necessary. And then that way it let me use these 4x6 cards and use most of it, instead of just having to use like half of, or use it and not be able to see it, if you know what I mean, because my photo was already too big. And then I do use some grid paper from the kit too, from the main kit. So I really like this XO, and so I make sure that a little bit more of the XO stands out. And then there's a doily in the Traveler's Notebook kit, so I decided to use that, and it's a heart doily. In the end, I kind of wish I didn't add it because I think I'm not sure if it really goes all that well, but it was a fun little feminine touch to add to this almost graphic background. So I'm going to add foam adhesive to these layers so that it just pops up just a little bit and gives a little bit more dimension and just helps it stand up. And I had one of the things from the bottom, the branding strips, and so I'm going to add this to the bottom, and I'm going to just have it go off a little bit, so there's going to be a part of it that doesn't go all the way across, and I kind of like that. I just like adding the black and the white, and I'm looking through these and seeing which one I think works really well, and I decide on the Life is Good because I wanted to add something to that other big circle. And I'm going to try to pick out pieces from the ephemera pack from the Live, Laugh, Love collection, and I'm also going to pick some of the acetate pieces, or like the acrylic pieces. I'm sorry for all that dog barking, if you can hear it. I'm gonna try to cut it out, or like dumb down my background noise. And I'm just gonna attach this, and then I'm also going to try to use my tiny attacher on part of it. It's not going to work on the whole thing because I'm not going to be able to fit the whole thing, but I use my tiny attacher in a couple other places so that it just kind of helps everything. I really want to use that, and at first I'm not really sure where I want to put it, so I'm going to put it off to the side. And then I also decide to use that little purple piece because it's purple, so why not? It works perfectly, right? I have to use the purple pieces because there's purple in there. I love this die cut pack. I want to save like all of them. But I end up just picking out that happy heart. And it does have, I thought about using it on that side, and then I decided to use it near that pink little dates label. And I just thought about taking off the multicolored strip at the top of that happy heart piece, but I decided to keep it on only because it does have some of the same colors, and I thought that even though it has some extra colors, you probably really won't notice it that much. And then I put some of these acetate pieces right over top of where I stamped, so you're only really seeing the stamped image through the heart in the middle, and that was really fun. So now is when I'm going to stick on this butterfly, and I thought about sticking it on that side and it would have worked, but I had already stuck down the acrylic piece. I should have waited to do those, but oh well. So it didn't quite work there. And so my next idea is to stick it over where that bird is. And I'd already thought about the fact that that bird doesn't really work anyway, so I just decided to cover it up. But I am thinking about adding, like, seeing if I could stick that piece there, and I don't like it. I really like it right up in that spot, so I'm just gonna put it right there. And then I just decide to use a puffy sticker heart there where the bottom of the phone, and so you can see a little bit of it, but it's not so bad that it's that big of a deal. And then I just stick a couple of the enamel dots that were the add-ons from last month. I don't think they're in the store anymore. I think they're all gone, but like I said, anything that's in the store that I use that is still there, I'll make sure I link below. And don't forget to head over to the Clique Kits blog so you can see all the other projects that the design team members made for this challenge. I will see you guys later, and I hope you guys have a great scrappy week. Bye!